Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. It's all yours. You can have it. We're just about done with it. And who are we? I am Jamie Williams, sometimes known as the Vet. With me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon. Brandon, what's going on?
Not much, man. Uh, when is Impact? Are they really just sitting back and waiting for them to kind of switch over to TNA before they actually put into any real effort into their product? I mean, so far, ever since Bound for Glory, it has been nothing but essentially house shows or themed house shows. Like, come on, guys. I know you're better than that.
I'm good. Thanks for asking. And so we've also got the we've also got the C in the VBC. The chat is here with us to join us about everything that Brandon just said. And who do we have with us so far? Right at the top of the hour, so to speak, Brandon.
Let's see who we got here. Now we got Al Robinson, we got Lab Rat, Retro Rocket Review, Elizabeth, Buckshot Kid, Javi Uchito, whoop whoop. Hope you guys having a great night. Thank you for joining us.
A gang of usual suspects. But yes, yeah, to your point, like I was gonna mention this later, but I might as well talk about it now. At some point during the Final Resolution pay-per-view, it was the main event, and the announcer says, "This is the last Impact match ever." And I'm like looking at the calendar, looking at my watch. It's like, I'm sorry, is not the TNA switch in 1 month? So what are we about to be in for 4 weeks of TV then? I'm not
Filler.
uh,
4 weeks of filler.
right. Well, we gotta pencil in a Christmas episode, right? Like we're gonna have to do that. Then we're gonna have a New Year's, look back at the best of Impact. I'm sure, but still 2 more weeks. We got 2 more weeks of randomness. Like, what are they planning to do? So yeah, I'm interested to see how that's gonna go. And by interested, I mean dreading. So that's basically exactly what you're talking about with this treading water, this house show. That it's fine. And like the episode we're gonna talk about the episode with AAA, and that's a fun look at something we don't normally get to see. So no problem there. Um, but yeah, we'll get to all that. We'll definitely get to all that. Um, and I was thinking it kind of as I retweeted the your preview. I said that when it rains it pours, referring to the fact that some weeks we struggle to make content to talk about, and this week there's almost too much content. We got news to talk about. We've got two shows to talk about. We can't just and but these two shows, and on top of there was also an NXT pay-per-view this week. There's too much. So but we'll get to it all. I welcome too much rather than not enough, to be honest. um but yeah, well, I guess without any further ado, let's get to some news. The first item that I think is probably the most pertinent is they announced that the Impact app, of course, will be changing to the TNA Plus app, and that app will be carried by Endeavor Streaming Services
The
and
same
powered
in
by Endeavor Streaming
yep.
Services.
The same Endeavor that owns WWE and UFC. So that is kind of interesting because that it could potentially open the door between some kind of partnership or some kind of deal. Who knows? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we
It's
don't really know a lot of specifics, just that we know that the door's open.
mm-hmm. It's also sort of like another nail in the coffin for the Vince McMahon era, because
Yep.
he personally would be exactly the person that would stand in the way of anything like this. Like no matter how insignificant, which we could also talk about there's not much to talk about because no details really have been released, I don't think. But
Also,
the MLW lawsuit, that whole thing, them getting kicked off of networks and things, or WWE swooping in to knock people off of things, just to do it, going back to the pay-per-view providers with Starcade and Survivor Series and all that stuff. It's they have a history. Vince McMahon has a history of saying "fuck you." I'm gonna step on this, even though it wouldn't hurt my business and might actually help my business.
I think too, like the new owners, they might have that mentality of they understand the benefit of having strong competition
Mm-hmm.
much better than Vince does.
And they also know when competition is not competition. It's like it'd be like I don't know. Anytime the NFL, if there's another pro football league that pops up, and then they try to like go to the network and be like, hey, if you let this arena football league on your network, then we're pulling the Super Bowl. Like what, that kind of shit. Like it is not competition. It does not matter. But it's pettiness. So maybe we've moved on from the pettiness. People can exist in the same space. Business is business. Let's make whatever money we can. Why not?
Right. And that, TNA/Impact tape library, like look at the value of that there. There's a lot of like big names who had a pretty decent sized chunk of their careers happen in TNA. So just like that tape library on its own is valuable just for that.
Yeah. And let's be real. Like everybody that's going to be using TNA Plus is well aware that the WWE exists and they're not making a choice, you know. So let's kind of look at some of it. So yes, Endeavor Streaming already uses it's already used for like UFC Fight Pass, for example, right? So that's a thing that allows you to watch like preliminaries and certain special events. For example, you may have seen, if you have UFC Fight Pass, you may have seen some of these Fight League matches that CM Punk was on commentary for, like that stuff streams on Fight Pass. So it's a multi-year agreement. Let's see what else we have here. They're going to relaunch the app, as TNA Plus. It'll come with some new functionality, improved functionality, hopefully. Brandon, you use the Impact Plus app, so you can kind of speak to it. How is it as an app?
It's not a bad app. I think it's pretty decent. It's not that hard to figure out, at least for me, it's not. I mean, some of
Do
the
you
features
primarily use it on your phone or your PC?
PC, because it's more like for if I'm doing like I'm working on a project or playing a game or something, that's something for me to watch in the background. Like if I go watch old TNA, I'll go like some of the pay-per-views or the old, mid late 2000s impacts. I'll watch it while I'm playing in the background, playing a video game in the background or something.
And how is the search? Like, if you want to search for a wrestler or an event, like, is that pretty good or is it a little iffy?
I mean, it's easy to look for. I mean, again, most of what I watch is the older stuff, and I've never had an issue trying to find it.
Okay, so all that stuff. How about the player functionality? Does it have good can you adjust your speed and stuff? Can you watch it in 2 times speed like I do a lot of these shows?
Actually, I have it pulled up right now. Let me look at it. There actually is not really a speed function. But the one thing that I really wish they would have that I'd add to it is like markers of like when matches begin and when matches end. That would be nice to have. So they just have commercial markers.
I can see nobody wanting to do that job. When the WWE Network launched, they didn't have that. It would be like on launch day, you were just had to watch that whole event and find it yourself. They didn't have markers or matches, and eventually by the end of it, or to current day, because some countries still use the WWE Network app. But like in current, they even had to the point of like adding the finish of the match, so you could go right to that and everything like that. So that ended up being pretty good, but it was rough when it launched. So
Growing pains. It's one of those things you got to learn as you grow.
right. So anyway, hopefully we'll add some of those things. Maybe we'll add some markers. Maybe we'll add some speed controls or whatever on this. So then they also said something about this future interaction between fans and wrestlers on the app, whatever that means. Different subscription plans.
I could probably see something like them doing like special events of like saying, hey, this roster member is going to do a watch along of this event. Come, tune in and chat along with them or her.
Right. Or you could do virtual meet and greets, virtual signings.
Yep.
Those kind of things. So there'll be different subscription plans. So like there'll be like a tier with pay-per-views and another without. And the monthly price will increase. So there you go there. But that is something to look forward to. When it launches on January 5th. So we got a little bit of time, but that's where we're going. So there you go. That is what to look forward to with the Impact Plus changing over to TNA Plus. Anything else on that?
Nope. Other than, it kind of shows like where we are at, in the times of the company that owns WWE is striking a deal with TNA.
Mm-hmm. All right. Another kind of piece of news, I guess. It's a little bit of a lesser piece of news because it's just going to come in the course of time anyway. But Okada's returning to TNA after many years of not only not being there, but also vocally, being displeased with his original run or his time there or whatever. And I think most of the stuff that he said, he's let other people say for him, really. He just said he didn't really, he wasn't thrilled with it, I guess. But more recently, saying that he's talked a lot of trash about TNA, but things are different now, and maybe it's time he goes back and shows TNA who he is. So that's a quite interesting thing, and it'll give us something fun to watch at least, because you see how he fits into this landscape.
Funny story behind that too. Like, do you ever hear Russo talk about how it was actually Samoa Joe's idea to give him a comedy character?
Yes, I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with versions of things that people have said, and it's hard for me to piece together, what's really true. But
now, granted, your feelings on what they eventually came up with for Okada, yeah, that's obviously subjective. But at the end of the day, it was Samoa Joe who said, like, hey, this dude is funny. He makes everybody laugh backstage. It benefited him more to give him a comedy gimmick.
Right. So what? Yes, exactly. So what did they come up with? They come up with the Green Hornet sidekick, like as if the sidekick of the Green Hornet wasn't 70 years out of date by the time they put that.
To be fair, this was around the time they actually did the Seth Rogen Green Hornet movie.
To be fair, that was not a great idea either.
No, it wasn't. But at least it was kind of timely.
Right. I guess that some people that are, that would be Vince Russo detractors would look at that as low-hanging fruit of like, well, that's just, okay, so you're just the laziest possible thing you could think of. I'm not going to argue that one way or the other. Let's just say It's okay because a lot of people get a gimmick that is not going to be um, it's not going to be what they end up being. You know, Yuya Uemura is not continuing to sing and dance in New Japan right now. You know, it's just stuff to do, and then you go on and you do something completely else, and that's fine. And he's done fine with that. So, with everything playing out the way it should have, perhaps that's just how it had to be, right? So it's no big deal, no hard feelings. It's not the same management, it's not the same company really. Much like WWE with, you know, things these days, things are changing, and they are also heavily courting Okada. I've known for years, or no, known. I've heard for years that Triple H has been, you know, it's definitely not a secret that that's a guy that he's wanted for years.
And Okada is the kind of person that if he can adapt his style to something more to fit the American audience and what they're looking for, he could be a huge star in
Yes.
America.
Yes. While I feel that Okada can do anything, I feel that he is unquestionably the best professional wrestler in the world on every level. Like, and when I say that, it's not just like, oh, he's a, you know, he's a guy that has good matches in Japan, you know, like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about every level of professionalism, whether it's the way he dresses outside the ring, the way he carries himself like a pro athlete, the way he's never involved in any of these scandals that we hear of these other people, the way that he, you know, he is constantly given the torch to carry for his company, and he carries it, like those type of things, to the point that his reputation precedes him everywhere he goes. Not only just that, but every aspect of professionalism, his look, you know, his gear, like everything that you want a professional wrestler to be. Like, I don't feel like there's any areas in which he's lacking. And in the ring also, best matches, knows what to do, never looks like he's running spots. It's just that there's things that fans like him for anyway, but there's also a lot of things that fans don't see uh, that exemplify his professionalism. That is why I consider him to be the best, because it's much like you would consider somebody a poster boy for an entire sport, kind of like Ric Flair would have been in the 80s. Like, you look, it's like, well, that's what an athlete, that's what a pro wrestling athlete would be like. Or, you know, you see something like that. That it kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I agreed. Okada is a pro's pro.
Mhm. So I know he can do anything. Um, but I still feel like the way he is now is the best way to be in any company that he goes. So even if he were to go to WWE, the presentation should all be the same. They should even use his music if they can. If they can pay for Cult of Personality for CM Punk, they should just cut New Japan a check for his Rainmaker music and just use that. Let him be who he is, and, you know, do it smartly.
And
But
they got Cody's music too. Why not?
right. So I would that's what I would think, but who would know? He's never been, other than TNA the first run, he's not been like the kind of guy that does like short TV matches or backstage vignettes or those type of things. So if you keep him a special attraction on the level of like a Brock Lesnar or somebody that comes in just once in a while, you know, not that he only shows up once every few months, but just in the sense that you keep the mystique level. Don't ruin the mystique.
Right. Or you could still have him on TV, but he just doesn't wrestle every week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and a lot of guys don't, right? I mean, Roman Reigns doesn't even. So something like that. Um, but regardless, he's going to be showing back up for TNA for uh this event coming up in Las Vegas, whatever. So he'll be, you know, He'll be teaming up with the Guns, I believe, to take on, who is it? Three other guys? I don't know. Moose. Oh, it's Moose and who are his Moose partners? I
Good
forget.
hands.
It better not be.
I
No,
could
can't.
I could see that happening. I could easily see that happening.
No, they showed it. I just forgot. Somebody in the chat might say it, but so he'll be there for a 6-man. But we're gonna see, Moose and Okada share the ring for the first time in a long time since they've worked something in Ring of Honor together. So it's that's exciting. And Moose is kind of like, the everything I said about, Okada carrying himself as a professional. I see that with Moose now too. Like Moose is the guy kind of on the American side that's doing that for Impact, even though he's not the current champion, but they're
I
heavily
I think
leaning.
I think he's getting the belt at Hard to Kill. I really think he is. Like if you're doing a whole rebrand changeover, like that makes the most amount of sense to just flip the belt.
Right. You let this guy be the guy to, if people check out TNA now, like, okay, I haven't watched TNA in years, but they've been hyping it up. So what do they have? If they turn on it and see Alex Shelley as the champion, they may be less inclined to stick around than if, say, Moose is the champion, right? So
New
there you
fresh coat
go.
of paint, new hood ornament.
Mm-hmm. So I like that, but I'm, it's a good thing to see Okada back. He's just testing the American waters, getting his, we know he likes America. We know he loves In-N-Out Burger. He may be considering. And I also saw something that said, like, his wife, who's like, I think she's like a singer actress, like there may be more stuff, more opportunities for her in America as well. So that could be another, factor that plays into his decision whether he wants to leave New Japan and sign with an America-based company. So we'll see. But interesting times moving forward that we are just gonna tread water until that happens. I guess that's just how things are gonna be. So there you go. That's your sort of Impact related news. Was there anything else newsworthy that we should talk about?
As far as Impact goes, TNA, nah, not really.
Anything non-Impact related?
Damn, not really.
All right. All right. Javi says Fat Eddie and Brian Myers are the partners for the Shitty Six. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, more on that later. We will we will get to them. We will get to them. All right. Nothing else. In CM Punk watch, he showed up at NXT Deadline and hugged Shawn Michaels. He hugged Cora Jade. He's going around hugging people. He's posting him signing stacks of
The
8x10s.
The one thing you learned from Tony Khan is the mighty hug.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Is that a rib? Who knows? I wouldn't put it past him.
There was actually a I think it was on SmackDown. They did show a shot of him like thinking of barging into the Bloodline locker room. Then he like had a second thought and walked away.
Yeah, and he walked into Kevin Owens, who is a known and avowed Young Bucks friend. So they had a moment between each other as well. So that was nice. And Liz with the hot news, the scoop that he signed with Raw, which is ongoing as we record this. So, all right, there we go. Yeah, they definitely made up for their, absolutely nothing for 2 shows before he was to show up on the SmackDown that he showed up on, in which he showed up at the top of the hour and said he showed up at the top of the hour, and that he was going to give him spicy CM Punk, and then he gave him spicy CM Punk. And if you saw this, Brandon, the one thing I would comment on is, when we were talking about the uh the fallout from Brawl Out, and there were many people that were saying that that the money is to just set your feelings aside and work with the elite and do programs based around that. And I remember being what felt like the sole dissenting opinion to say that there's no money there because normal people don't care about that or know about that. So they're not going to draw any extra people by doing anything like that. And as it turns out, when he dropped a line on SmackDown where he said, Kevin Owens, it's 2023, you can't go around punching people in the face backstage, it was met with silence that you could hear a pin drop because nobody knows what the hell he's talking about. So,
yeah,
there you
unfortunately,
go.
like that was one of those things where if he was going to stay in AEW and they turned it into a storyline, is one of the things where it had to be explained and built for the casual fans to get it rather than just assuming they know what's going on. Like, you have to tell that story and let them know, hey, this is what happened. This is what we're building it on. And this is where this is going off of that, rather than just throwing it out there and expecting everybody to understand it.
Right. But then, however, if you did that, then that would just be like building any other wrestling angle from the ground up that the fans don't know about, whether it's real or not. So it wouldn't make a difference. It's not the point. My point was always that will not bring anybody new. It will only just, it'll get people maybe more excited that are already fans. You might sell some more tickets to these buildings that aren't selling enough tickets, but it's not going to bring eyeballs because anybody that wants to watch what these guys are doing is already watching it. That was my point.
Right. For something like that to bring eyeballs to the new eyeballs to the product, it would need to be like a long-term, like a year out where people are saying like, hey, have you checked out the story that's going on that AEW is basically built off of this that actually happened in real life? Oh no, I haven't been watching that. I'll actually check that out. But it would have to be like a long-term build, not like an instantaneous thing.
Yeah. So there you go. That is all right. Well, that's your CM Punk update. And he signed with Raw, I guess. So boring. But anyway,
I do have Milk Carton Minute though.
Milk Carton Minute. Let's get to Milk Carton Minute. Who's missing these days?
It has been a long time since we've seen the Death Dolls. I mean, I know we technically saw Jessica during the Throwback Throwdown, but I'm not counting that.
Lady Bird Johnson?
No.
Oh.
Crazy Steve, where has he been? He had the whole thing with Tommy Dreamer, then Dreamer did the DQ, and we haven't seen him since.
Well, I hope it was worth pouring his heart out on national TV for an angle for.
And then Tasha Steelz, where has she been since Impact 1000?
Well, I hope it was worth coming back.
And here's one that really blows my mind because this is somebody that they could get a lot of use of. Where the fuck has Joe Hendry been?
Wow. Has no one been saying his name? That's how he appears normally.
Say his name. Say his name. Say his name.
Yeah. That's all you need to do is say his name. It's not even his name. You just say the phrase, say his name, and he should appear. So, where's Rockstar Spud? I thought he worked with WWE. I thought he has like a producer job or something. Well, anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that we could see. Revamp Wrestling 2K saying most of them have time off until the new year. Okay,
and for the record, Rockstar Spud is currently a writer on Raw.
There you go. He wrote that CM Punk signs his contract. Good writing. Good writing, Rockstar Spud. All right. They're all Labrat says they're all being tested on. I believe that. All All right, well, let's go down south of the border for our first episode. We're going to cover the December 7th Impact Attack, and we are in Monterrey, Mexico with the AAA promotion. We're going to see a lot of interesting uh, combinations here in these matches. Our
Mexican house
first one,
show. Mexican house show.
Mexican House Show. Yeah. So, and it looks like it was multiple shows because this, as you'll see, there's people that work more than once. So for example, to start out, we have Chris Sabin and Trinity teaming up to take on Cheek Tormenta and Dinamico. So we got a little mixed tag action here. They don't really the men don't really necessarily wrestle the women, but they certainly have no qualms about hitting them when the time comes. So there's that. Trinity goes over with her little bomb cradle thing that she's been using, and yeah, there it was. So interesting match to open the show. Don't really have much to. I will say this. I will say this at the start, right? And it just kind of holds true with the whole thing, right? I remember I'm not really a fan of Lucha Libre. I'll just say that first. I'm a fan of the luchadors. Like I like the cool outfits and masks. I like the moves they do. I like the submission holds that they use. I like basically everything except sort of the entire atmosphere of it, because I'm perplexed by the crowds in Mexico, like the fans. Like it seems like I can't get a handle on what they really enjoy, because let's say like somebody will do some big move or something, and it seems like everybody just sits on their hands. And then someone will make a face at somebody and the whole place will go nuts. And I'm like, okay, so they're into the gaga then. They like the gaga. That's what the walk and talk, the all the working. They like all that stuff, right? And then someone else later will do a face and nobody cares, and then somebody will do a big move and everybody pops. So I really can't get the consistency of what the crowds really like. It seems like a lot of them are disinterested a lot of the time, so I get confused in the atmosphere.
I would need a little bit more context on that. Like those specific characters who are making the faces, are those characters over and well known to that audience? And then when it comes to the moves,
Yeah,
like specific moves, like were those moves like built up to and the proper work put into to make that, to get that specific crowd reaction, or were they just throwing out there just to throw them out there and get their shit in?
yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not necessarily referring to this episode in particular. I'm referring to my entire experience
Oh yeah,
watching
I'm with.
CMLL,
Oh
AAA,
yeah,
anything else. It's like I just have never really got it. And the other
I'm with.
problem is,
I personally, I think that's more, that could be much more of an individual basis. Like you really have to look at like everything going, like every single aspect going into that to understand why the audience reacts the way they react.
yeah. But they're definitely my least favorite wrestling crowd out of all like the major areas of the world, whether it's European crowds, Japanese crowds, American crowds, and Mexican crowds. They are the most like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. I've seen big events like big lucha libre events, like Triple Manias and stuff, where everybody's, you got some big stars in there, and the crowd is just like they look like they'd rather be anywhere else. I'm like, what are you guys? They must really just buy their tickets to see one or two people, and then they don't give a fuck about anybody else on the show. So that's why maybe the crowd is like patchy. Like they really like some things and not other things, because they're not there for the show. Maybe they're there for one person. I don't know. It's just weird. It's fucking weird, but whatever. It's okay. That's them. That's how they do things. Um, but the real issue I have here is when I was younger, and I did see, like, when I'd turn on one of these channels that has like a lucha, one of the Mexican cable channels that has Lucha Libre on it, and I'd watch it, um, I'd see these things that I wouldn't see. Okay. But in 2023, every fucking person is wrestling with shit like this.
Yeah.
So those complicated, routines that lead to an arm drag and all these like dives out of the ring and everything like that, they used to be novel and interesting back in the 90s when I was watching
Gringos
it.
are doing them now.
Yes, everybody. Fucking, it doesn't matter. Roman Reigns will dive over the top rope now in certain times. Like, it's just, there's nothing left for these guys to do. So now if I go watch actual Lucha Libre, it's like, oh, this again, when it should be like, it should be different and exciting. But now everybody's ruined it with their copying of it. That's bad and worse.
Yep.
Like,
what made the Lucha special, like on Nitro back in the day, is that they were the only ones doing that. They were the only ones doing it. They were an attraction on the show. If everybody's doing flip flops and arm drags and special like hoopty-las and all that shit, like what makes the luchador stand out?
Yeah. So watching Lucha Libre in 2023, a little different than 1993, but I can't hold that against those guys. They're doing what they've always done. So so that made it interesting. It was like a sobering sort of wake-up call for the way things have sort of gone down. And it's not just a question of what kind of moves you do. It's a question of what are you individually bringing to the show. And when we talk about Final Resolution, we'll talk about that in a different way of like, you should not be doing this if so-and-so is going to be doing this. So we'll talk about that eventually. But anyway, yeah, that's basically my main takeaway from this is like, this is no longer, unique. This format, this style, this presentation is no longer unique. And the crowds are weird. So that's what I thought. Any thoughts on this mixed tag match to start? Anything?
No, as far as like, a show opener goes, it was decent and did its job and everybody did their part.
All right. Well, Josh Alexander does a promo in the hallway. Basically he's saying a Final Resolution, it's going to be him and he's got to take on the Motor City Machine Guns. He went and got himself a Zack Sabre Jr. So please look forward to it, I guess, that's the main point there. Okay, now we're going to go to a triple threat match. It's going to be Fat Eddie finding himself in between Latigo and Mystices Jr. So it's a triple threat match. Mystices pins Eddie after some Lucha Libre happens. And when I say that, what I mean is they did everything you would expect. Like if you were to turn on AAA and see the show, you would expect to see something like this, except here's Eddie in the middle of all of it, doing his best.
I could not describe it any better. That's basically what it was.
All right, let's move on then. Trey Miguel is in the hallway cutting a promo on Mike Bailey and Mike Bailey's feet specifically. He's telling him he needs to cover that shit up, basically. He's saying, wrap it up, B, or I'm going to wrap it up for you.
Wrap that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
You better wrap that gavel up, B.
Yeah. So that's his promo. Then the Machine Guns do a promo in the hallway. Everybody's in the same hallway doing these promos. Guess it's the quietest place down there in Monterey. So they're all doing their promos there.
And of course, cheesy, generic babyface promos.
Yeah. Machine Gun's got nothing to add to any of the proceedings here. I'm sorry. Like, it's going to sound like I just don't like the Machine Guns. And you're right. I don't. I really don't.
Oh, when we get to Final Resolution, I have something to say about the Machine Guns.
Okay. Looking forward to that more than anything else they do. Jordan Grace and Sexy Star 2, I guess. They're just not going to call her that, but this is not the original Sexy Star. Versus Diana and Maravilla.
I want to apologize to Retro Rocket. Unfortunately, Sammy Callahan is no longer there.
Yes. He is fat though. All right, so
And I've actually heard rumors that he might be the devil in AEW because they've had like tease like, oh, this guy has ability to mess with our electric and lighting system. So kind of like, oh, he's a hacker. So, oh, it could be Sammy Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. That's going to be a huge letdown to everybody, but so this tag team match is brought to you by the Mummy Murders. Okay, so everybody go out and watch that, whatever that is.
Here's one thing that was bugging me the entire night. I could not turn away from the fact that on the main screen throughout every single match with all these adverts and like promos for different products.
Hey, we're trying to get that money, guys. We're trying to get revenue streams here.
Which is and credit AAA, they know how to do it better than almost any promotion in the world.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and we're seeing it. We never used to see it in the WWE, but we're starting to see it now. But the way they do it, they'll put like this whole LED board around the ring, and they'll have like Slim Jim on it, you know, like so they don't put it in the ring per se, but you know, that may be coming one day. The mat may once in the future have the ads on it. So, you know, look out. Even like Halloween Havoc, remember it had a big Slim Jim thing in the middle too. So
oh yeah, the whole like vampire above a pumpkin.
Yeah. So WWE is the last frontier for like putting ads on the canvas, but don't be surprised. So anyway, in this match, some of the women bribed the referee with hugs, which is something that you don't normally see in American wrestling. But here in Mexico, the refs can be heels and they can be characters and they can be important to the match, which is another thing I like. And at least that hasn't really happened in a while.
I'm with you. It adds character and intrigue to the matches.
Mm-hmm. That worked against Jordan Grace later because she didn't give the referee a hug. Not sure he would have wanted one, but she might have broke something, but there would be like, she'd go for covers and he would just take his sweet time getting there or not quite count at all. And, you know, that's what you get when you don't give him a hug. So, you know, there you go. She did eventually win with the Juggernaut driver on Maravilla, but,
oh, that looks scary. That looks scary. I thought she landed on her head.
Yeah. So, you know, interesting match. The new sexy star is much, let's say, thicker than the old one. So I know Retro Rocker Review is all about this if he watched this.
And she's also a lot safer from what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, she might not shoot on you. Let's just put it that way. It's just unfortunate that sexy star chose to shoot on somebody that wasn't going to shoot back, because I don't know how tough she actually is, but if she tried that on the wrong chick, I don't think it would have went that way. But
yeah, to like try that on like maybe like a natty, see how that goes for you.
Right. Yeah. But I bet she wouldn't do that. I mean, most of the people that like to shoot on you in the ring, they don't do it on people that actually could take care of themselves. If you notice. Interesting how that works. All right, so then we get a package, a Back to Mexico package. This is sort of a travelogue thing where TNA shows how much they love going to different places and having fun and being a company. It's nice. Okay, our next bout features Dreamer and Laredo Kid versus Brian Myers and Taurus. Now, I don't know why. Myers and Taurus have never really been a team, and Taurus is more of a babyface than Myers is, at least in Impact. Maybe he's a heel in Mexico. I don't know. But you know, they have a match. Tommy Dreamer's out there doing stuff. Tommy Dreamer knew how to get a reaction. He took a fan's beer, a cerveza, if you will, and drank it. And, you know, even though that may not be safe to do, he did it. As Tommy Dreamer, he's drank Barbicide. What's a Mexican beer going to do? and smashed it on you know, what's his name's head, um, Myers' head. So there, you know, he got a reaction with that. Um, but you know, the rest of it's normal match, I guess. Um, and for the finish, the Laredo Kid hits a sunset bomb on Taurus after hitting a Canadian destroyer, which that kind of seems backwards, you know. I would think the spine compressing move would be the finisher, and then the normal fall on your back bump would be the setup. But you know, what do I know? I've been retired a long time. I'm out of touch. So then afterwards,
And they
uh,
refer to it as a Mexican destroyer to pop the house.
the house didn't hear it. The afterwards, Dreamer scrapes up poor Taurus and gives him a Dreamer driver through a table for some reason. Way to be a baby face. God damn, that's rude. Rude, as a matter of fact. So there you go. But I gotta just say, who hates Taurus, man? Who hates that guy?
Yeah.
Everybody.
What did he do to deserve that?
Yeah, all he did was have a cool mask and be a cool wrestler, and everybody just beats him all the time. He's won like less matches. I don't even need my whole hand to count the number of matches he's won since I've been watching Impact. Like it's been like 2. Um and how many years? It's just, can the guy get something? I don't know. Yeah, and then after taking 2 finishes, you scrape him up off the canvas. Why can't Myers go through the table?
Yeah.
You
How
know?
hard would it be to give him a tag title run?
Apparently it's the hardest thing in the world. And we know there's so much competition in that tag team division in Impact, soon to be TNA. So anyway, we'll start a hashtag on X, Justice for Taurus. But we're gonna get a Trinity hallway promo. Grace wants to make sure, she steps in and wants to make sure they're on the same page for their match at Final Resolution with Deanna and Giselle. So
All I
they're
could
doing
think,
this thing again.
right, exactly. That's all I could think of. Was like, wait a minute, did we just see this exact same angle with Deanna and Trinity?
We did. We're gonna see it again. And the great Piers Austin is here. Hello, good day to Piers Austin. We love Pierce Austin, former guest on the Impact Attack, former ring announcer of Impact, former guest on the Next Level Wrestling Review multiple times. I've been a guest on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Just a great. We love Pierce Austin. It is 2 in the afternoon, sort of where he's at, somewhere around there, 2, 3. I don't know. I'm not an Australian time expert. But glad to see him. And we're gonna do something with Pierce probably really soon. Let's do something with Pierce. We're always looking to do something else with Pierce. Impact does need Pierce Austin, damn it. All right, well, just book your ticket to Monterrey, Mexico, and then you can ring announce some of these guys south of the border. Where are we at? We are at Josh Alexander and Octagon Jr. versus Moose and Toxin. So another mishmash of tag teams. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, I used to watch original Octagon. When I was talking about watching Lucha Libre earlier. Okay, so I was watching Octagon Jr.'s dad. This is like one of those memes, like, feel old yet? Like, this is Octagon Jr. Feel old yet? Like, now I'm seeing the Luchadors kids running around, and it just reminds me, like, okay.
This is how you remind me.
Right. And yeah, and then you got Toxin, who looks pretty cool. I think he had a cool outfit, which is kind of what I'm talking about. I like this aspect of it. And he's one half of a tag team but his partner was working earlier, so that's Latigo. So anyway, here we get to see Lucha Moose. He's doing his best. His best was pretty good. So he is, doing stuff. And they have the match, and ends with a spear on Octagon Jr. Hey, I enjoy Moose. Any Moose I can get, I enjoy it. We didn't get to see a Moose entrance here, but that's fine. Yeah, I think that's about all I can say. I feel old for seeing Octagon Sun, and I got to see Moose, being Moose. So there you go. Anything else to add to that?
We got to see Moose hit a spear and go over. I'm happy.
That's important. Let's do that. Dreamer, the promo in the hallway, generic. Then we get to see a package announcing the return of Okada. The note I have after watching this package is the company is definitely apologetic, because this was an amazing package, just an amazing highlight package. If you've never seen this guy, you would definitely feel like he's a somebody after watching this package. So, so there you go. And then for your main event, you have the Machine Guns and Vikingo, Hijo del Vikingo. I don't remember watching his father growing up, so I may have seen him, but I just don't remember. Versus Trey Miguel and Los Vipers, which is Toxin and Latigo. So we just get to see back-to-back Toxin matches, and he's wearing completely different gear in both of these. So he's a guy that switches it up, I guess.
And a guy who gets it, because he knows, like, they're probably gonna be showing different days, so wear different gear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they do stuff. They all do stuff. And eventually Vikingo wins with his outside in second rope twisty thing that he does. I believe he is the promotion's champion, so no surprise that he goes over. I felt on this combination of two different tapings, at least two different tapings, they did a good job of like getting both talent over. Impact won some, AAA won some. It's pretty good. You want to at least be nice to your guests and let them go over. So when Moose spears the shit out of a guy that's half his size and goes over, it's not that crazy, and letting your champion go over.
And I got to believe Conan had a lot to do with that.
Oh, of course. But it's something everyone should be mindful of.
Right.
You're bringing in people, even if you think you're giving them the rub, you still want to like, hey, thanks for coming. You guys are somebody. You were worth inviting and paying. So let's give them a win.
Exactly. It has to be a thing where both parties mutually benefit off of working together.
Right. So that's why I say when you book these kind of cards, make sure to give everybody give people some good wins, and don't do that at the expense of anybody you don't want to, but pick the right person for the job.
Yep. And again, you do it the right way. That opens the door to do it again later, to help for everybody to work together and benefit from each other.
Yes. So there you go. That was the AAA venture for Impact, and they're doing their little world tour thing, and now that part's over. Any closing thoughts on this trip?
Nope, that'll do her. I wish there was more storyline and just development and actual like writing gone into the show. Because it could have been so much better. It really could have been so much better if this was more than just a house show that took place in Mexico.
Well, you're right. On the other hand, we've seen what happens when they put effort into story, and it's not always the best. So I don't know sometimes what's sounds better. We could have gotten another stabbing. And that,
Or
while that may fit down in Monterrey, Mexico, that's not the best. Maybe we could have saved the stabbings for a Tijuana show.
or for like more closer to the border towns.
Yeah. So all right. So now we're at final resolution.
Yep.
And
I want to get this thing about the Motor City Machine Guns off my chest. Like you keep hearing about, like when you watch the show, you would think that the Motor City Machine Guns were like this amazing team that were at the forefront of tag team wrestling during Impact or TNA's heyday. I went back and looked, saw who were champions at that time. Motor City Machine Guns only held the titles one time, from July of 2010 to January of 2011. They never held the tag belts again until July of 2020. So for all this talk of, oh, the Motor City Machine Guns were pioneers, they were at the forefront of the tag team division, they were the dominant of the tag team division. No. It was teams like Beer Money, British Invasion, Immortal, who else? Main Event Mafia, Creed and Lethal, and Hernandez, Matt Morgan, LAX. Those guys during that time, they were the most dominant teams and the ones that were actually winning titles and at the forefront of the division. Whereas the Motor City Machine Guns were kind of the guys who made those guys look good.
So before 2010, they never, because I know they were there in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, right. They didn't really start teaming and becoming an actual team around like 07, 08.
Well,
but I'm not diminishing what they contributed and what they gave to building TNA's tag team division, but I think what they contributed and what they gave is being way overblown beyond proportion.
All right. I mean, I can see that. Yeah, we know that just because you're the champion doesn't necessarily mean anything, because that's just a decision. And then you got to, be built off of other people. And if the Machine Guns were helping to build some of those teams, that most of those teams that you mentioned never really went anywhere, even as teams. So, you could credit the Guns for trying to help with that. But I don't know. It also seems like they highly value their importance, as those roles of we've already talked about Alex Shelley taking credit for all these, basically every wrestler to come after him. So, I feel like that is something that the show also pushes on us as far as their, contribution, so to speak. But nonetheless, the only thing that really matters is the here and now, because we arrived at where we arrived. And we have arrived at final resolution. And that is a pay-per-view, a premium live event, if you will, being held at the Battle Arts Academy in the Don Kolov Arena. So this is Santino basically is hosting this thing. I'm sure he gave him a deal on the building. And then, yeah. So we'll start out with the countdown show.
I completely skipped over the countdown show.
All right. Well, I don't blame you. But for anybody or for yourself who skipped over the countdown show, let me tell you, brother. Let me tell you something, brother. This is what happened on the countdown. We got PCO. PCO, that's right. Canada's own PCO versus Jesse V. Now, I know this would be I know we just did the AAA thing, but this would be a prime spot for Conan's Who? Yeah, of course, this has got to be like a battle arts student that's getting a shot here at okay, let's see what you could do, kid. He looks like something. The announcers call him a hybrid athlete. He's a hybrid. They don't say of what and what that he's a hybrid of, but they do say he is a hybrid athlete. So this hybrid athlete has to let this old man beat the shit out of him for a few minutes and go over with the PCO salt. I guess he was good at getting the shit kicked out of him by this guy that could barely walk, but I guess we'll need to see more from Jesse V. I didn't find any complaints about Jesse V. It just, he's an in shape, bigger than average, muscular, looks like a hybrid athlete. He's a white dude. I don't see there's not a huge amount of room for a guy like this in the landscape right now. It's basically every guy ever. So, but at least he's bigger than small guys, I guess. That's one good thing.
I mean, I love Pierre-Carl Ouellet. I mean, the way the guy has managed to reinvent himself over the last several years and stay relevant in wrestling has been nothing short of amazing. And like that model is something that a lot of the older guys could and should emulate, except for the whole killing yourself in the ring doing ridiculous things.
Yeah. We didn't do anything too ridiculous. I mean, this guy is probably a student after all, like I said. So either he didn't trust him or it just wasn't necessary. Know your spot on the card. He didn't do anything too crazy. But
I would have to assume that PCO is smart enough to know, okay, this is where we're at, so let's not take away from the main card.
I wouldn't assume that, but it worked out that way. Let's go ahead and assume that. So anyway, after this, Jake Something is doing a promo in the back, and then all of a sudden he's interrupted by a chair to the spine from Jason Hotch. Jason Hotch attacks him with a chair and beats the shit out of him with a chair. And then security comes in. And they must be students too because they're haircuts. And then they get rid of Jason Hotch. And, I mean, we should probably fire him at the very least, right? I mean, there's no way he's getting a match later.
I felt my life was threatened just watching it.
Right. And you didn't even watch it. So just imagine if you had. You'd probably have a heart attack. Yeah. So there you go. That'll come into play later. Spoiler alert, Hotch was not fired. So can you imagine? Okay, look. Can you just imagine if this was real? Like, you go to Santino's building, right? And as a guest in the building, you've got a match booked for later. And you just are like, okay, I got a match later. Think about it. You're thinking now, let's think about like a pro athlete. Think about like a football player, putting the cleats on, putting the pads on, getting ready, like you're doing these things. Just imagine that mindset. And then you're just like, you know what? What if I just go fucking hit my opponent with a steel chair and make sure he can't wrestle me later so that I don't have to work on this card and I wouldn't get paid if this is the case. Like, can you imagine it doesn't matter if you're a heel. Why would you have that mindset for somebody that you have no history with? This is not an angle. This is cold, right? This is a cold match. And it's just imagine somebody having that mindset. It's just manufactured excitement by lazy writing. You're just trying to say like, You're trying to add a little something to this match that's about to happen, but you're not doing it in a way that makes sense.
Right. They didn't say like at the beginning of Hotch saying like, hey, yeah, this guy's bigger than me, so I'm going to soften him up before the match and making it easier for me. Like nothing to set that up, just like him going right into it.
Yeah. The whole mindset is wrong. Everything's wrong. People are just too comfortable in their phoniness and going into tropes and just lazy crutches and all these things.
I mean, I could see like something happening where Hotch would attack Jake Something backstage to make him easier to deal with, but that story wasn't told. It's just like he just shows up and attacks him and they expect the audience to figure it out.
Well, I'll tell you a way that they could have got to the same place they eventually got to without doing any of this. Okay. And we'll talk about that when we get there. Just remind me. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the next match, which is Jack Price which is that guy that's the other half of Sunday Morning Express or whatever their name is, versus Aiden Prince, another candidate with the for the
Who?
for Whoville.
Who?
Let's call it Whoville, since it's Christmas season. And my heart's not going to grow 3 sizes talking about this match. These guys look and wrestle like they should be on the pre-show of a TNA event at Santino's school. So that's about all I'm going to say with that. I don't even remember who goes over. I guess it's Jack Price, I think. It doesn't matter. You don't want to watch this. Nobody should have watched this. Retro Rocket Review watched this. He shouldn't have watched this. He probably regrets watching this. Okay. This is now what is this? Okay. Trinity and Jordan Grace are with Gia and no music underneath. They are passively aggressively getting along as a team. That's how I describe this promo. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go out there tonight, but yeah, I'm probably gonna beat your ass. Like, yeah, I don't think you are. I think I am. I love you though, girl.
I think I might have said this during this exact same review, but like, didn't we see this like exact same angle play out with Trinity and Deanna like the last build-up?
Deja vu. Again. All right. Your main event of the pre-show is Sheldon Jeans versus Frankie Kazarian, who I will remind you bet on himself to be on the pre-show of a TNA event at Santino School. So I just want everyone to remember that Frankie Kazarian bet on himself.
And then he later cut the promo saying he's not going to be a part of somebody's vanity project.
Right. Well, he bet on himself. Sometimes you can't win every bet you make. That's why it's a gamble. That's why it's called gambling. He does win at least. I'm not going to, dude, even when this match is on, I'm like, I'm not watching this. So whatever I was doing, I was probably on my phone scrolling, whatever. I wasn't watching this. All right, now we're at the Final Resolution main card. Our opening match is Brian Myers and Eddie, with accompanied by Lish, versus ABC. I assume the titles were on the line, but I couldn't bring myself to even pay enough attention to care about that.
They were, but it's like, come on, do you really think they're going under to this makeshift team?
No. But I will say about the makeshift part of the team, I wrote down this, I was like, now here's a partner for Myers. Like this is a perfect teaming. 2 guys that have absolutely really nothing to offer in terms of the larger wrestling business, but you're still here in this company and you got to do something. So yes, these guys, these are the team. You do not put Myers with Moose as an albatross to weigh him down. You put him with another guy that's just like, I don't know, I guess. And then that's your team. Myers and Eddie. That's your new team. That's a team that makes sense. They both wear black and green here too, so you can kind of look like a team.
You got black and green. You're wearing black and green. All right, you're a tag team.
You guys should be a tag team. Yep. Shout out to Tony Gurria. Is Tony Gurria still with us? I don't even.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I 100% sure he is, but I'll double check just to be sure.
Okay, well, I'll just make sure. Yeah, he's 77 years old. All right. Well, ABC goes over, and as soon as they win, the Rascals come out and attack, and they should probably get fired for that, but they attack, and there you go. More excitement. More excitement with attacks. Any thoughts on this match?
No. It was a match.
Okay. All right, so we go backstage, I guess. There is a stage. Josh and Zack Sabre Jr. are here to do a promo. And Zack likes to call people whatever bollocks. So Josh Alexander has weapon bollocks, and he's saying how everybody in this match has a championship except him, so we need to get weapon bollocks a championship. So that's fine. I like Zack Sabre Jr. He's a good promo. He's funny. He's a dick. He's perfect. All right. So back to the ring. Did you have anything else to say on that?
No, I'll say the same thing for Zack Sabre Jr. I've said for Will Ospreay. He has character. He has charisma. He has the it factor. Lean into that instead of killing yourself in the ring.
All right. Well, luckily, Zack Sabre does not kill himself in the ring. All right, so we're back in the ring, and Lish has a mic, and knee pads. So there's a giveaway, in case you're not. She won't leave. She's holding the show hostage. The losers are still out there selling, and she's on the mic telling everybody they have stupid accents. Santino comes out. He says she has a stupid accent. She says he has a stupid accent. And he says, well, we're going to have a match against Jody Threat. So Jody Threat comes out. We get Lish versus Threat. Threat wins the match. I think this extends my not watching these matches to about 3 in a row now. Anything happen?
Not really. Just to make the live crowd happy.
Were they happy? I mean, they sounded happy.
They definitely seemed like it, but at the same time, though, it's like, were you trying to appease your live crowd or try to appease the people that are paying you money to watch the show live? Which, again, I can understand both, but there are times and places to do both, to do each one.
Yeah, I would say this. In all fairness, I would say that if you're ever going to try to get somebody at home to care about Jody Threat, you have to trick them into thinking that she's somebody to care about by putting her in front of a hometown crowd. So maybe it was the right move. But whether it works is another thing entirely. Labrat says Alicia was hungry and wanted to eat. Well, there's no food in the ring. She should have went to the back. Saved herself the trouble.
I know there's plenty of meat on Eddie's bone.
Yep. Think she ever just takes a bite out of them when they're asleep? She just rolls over and takes a bite. Like, he'll probably think it happened in some match, right? In a Killer Kowalski match, the hardcore. So Diener versus Dreamer for the Digital Media Championship is next. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Diener almost made my milk carton thing if he wouldn't have been in this match.
Well, I wish he'd be on a milk carton. Deep Fear, Sharks versus Narcs is now streaming. So if you remember that from a few weeks ago, you can watch Deep Fear right now. Not right now. Wait till we're done here. Then go watch Deep Fear. The murderer, or at least attempted murderer, doing quite a bit of comedy in this match. Like quite a bit. I don't. So I start paying attention, and this is what I get. This is how I'm rewarded. I see him doing like the sunset flip pinwheeling. Like I thought he was doing he forgot to stop doing his character from IPWF. Like he's still, he's doing the thing where he's trying to gain his senses and then takes a Ric Flair bump. Like there's so much comedy in just a short match here with Tommy Dreamer. And it's like, what character, what are you now? You still came out to the design package and music and everything, and you're still doing this character, but it's like a house show, but we can see it. We're seeing it.
Like you can have like, who are the opponents in this match? Who was the opponent? Tommy Dreamer?
Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, like Dreamer can do like a
title match.
Yeah, like Dreamer Dreamer can get away with like maybe a comedy spot here or there, but like Diener should be like wanting to kill him and take the title.
Yeah. Yeah, literally kill him.
I mean, we saw him stab somebody. Why the fuck not?
Yeah. If this was a .combat match, perhaps you could stab him. Maybe you could get like a thumb drive and sharpen it and stab him, or
Switchblade on a pole match.
Yeah, anything that you want to do other than the old he did Tommy Dreamer started doing the jabs and went for the bionic elbow, and then Diener ducked and then turned around and pointed to his brain at the crowd like, haha, I'm too smart to get hit by the bionic elbow, like as he's completely turned his back to his unfettered opponent. Like nothing happened to Tommy Dreamer to make him think that he was safe from getting attacked. So that's another comedy spot.
And again, here's how you could have easily walked out of that. You have the heel get up on that, him being smart and getting over on Dreamer, and then Dreamer outsmarts him and takes back over. Not that hard.
It's not. Or he just ducks and then looks up and gets hit anyway. That's probably the easier way to do it if you have to do it.
Again, at the end of the day, as long as the baby face is outsmarting the heel, you can still have the heel be super smart as long as the baby face is smarter than the heel.
Yeah, well, nobody's smart here. I'll tell you how not smart they are. The last thing you're going to see right before Dreamer hits the DDT for the win is he does hit his jabs. He goes for the bionic elbow and reaches down and picks up the elbow pad off the ground, puts the elbow pad on and hits him with the pad. This silence is not my internet cutting out. Like, I just want everybody to know that we're just face palming, staring blankly. Anybody listening on audio, that was a intended silence to let that breathe what they did in the match.
Like, if you're trying to sell that as being painful to the other guy, wouldn't it be you take the elbow pad off and hit him with your bare elbow?
I guess his elbow's not bionic. Or if it was a gimmicked elbow pad, but how would we know that? Maybe somebody in the chat can tell me if I missed it. Did somebody gimmick the elbow pad? Was there like a piece of metal in there or something that they somehow got that over? I don't, I forgot. But okay, well,
I remember
anyway.
I remember plenty of times where guys would be like, they lower the knee pads, so they go, okay, I'm hitting with my bare knee, so it's gonna be more painful. Wouldn't the same thing happen with the elbow because it's pretty basically the same kind of joint?
Yes, it would. Hell, you could bust somebody open legit with an elbow.
It just blows my mind.
Just like the show Busted Open with Dave LaGreca, that you can hear Tommy Dreamer. If you want to hear him expose the business more, you can listen to that every single whenever. I don't know when it's on because I don't listen to that shit. But he was wearing a Busted Open t-shirt, so.
Like, it just blows my mind that somebody like a Tommy Dreamer wouldn't get that. Like, what is it that's making people who should know better not know better?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've explained Tommy Dreamer enough here. Like, there's just, it's too late if he doesn't get it by now. So Santino is going to punish the Rascals for their actions earlier by putting them in a match. You know, it just occurs to me, because this match had a surprise opponent. But I will conclude my thoughts with that. I'll just go over the whatever real quick. So Rascals come out, and their opponents are Mike Bailey and Trent Seven.
Did he come to the ring floating with white makeup all over his face?
No. He came to the ring in his robe. He has white hair. That helps. I don't know if that hair is a shoot or if he's going for like that platinum-ish look, but yeah.
Honestly, if he's going for like the whole like, isn't he one of the guys that's part of the Grizzly Young Vets?
No.
Oh, shit.
He's part of the guys that were Mustache Mountain.
Ah.
That other British tag team.
Honestly, like the distinguished gray look works for him. Like for what he's going for, works for him. Run with that.
Yeah. Well, nothing else works for him. I don't like Trent Seven, never have. But I'm sure he's a nice man. So, anyway, they have the match. Again, very disinterested in this. I will be honest with you guys. I made sure to, rewind after I realized the match was over because I wanted to see at least the finish. So I saw them hit the ultimate weapon on Wentz, and then Seven pins him. So, yeah, there you go. Now, Trent Seven has been known to use what he calls the 7-star clothesline, which is basically the Rainmaker that Okada uses. He's going to use that when Okada shows up? Probably not. But, he'll use some other stuff. I think he did a burning hammer here to set up the ultimate weapon. Because, when you do a burning hammer, like when you get dropped right on your head and neck, the first thing you do is just immediately crawl to your knees, right? So that somebody can hit a move on you. Like, you don't just get knocked out. But anyway, never mind.
No, that's that. They need to go home. We ain't pinning somebody with that. We got to keep doing more shit.
Yeah, throw away a burning hammer. It's no big deal. Guys here's the thing. Guys that steal moves from All Japan 90s wrestlers, okay? Like, some of those moves were like emergency break open glass moves. Like, they didn't win every single match with the burning hammer. The burning hammer was a move that
oh shit, you kicked out of my finish. Okay, I gotta dig deep to pull something out to really put you away.
Yeah, I forget who used the burning hammer originally. It might have been Kobashi.
I want to say,
despite what people may think, I'm not a master Japanese wrestling historian. But
no, I think I once think you're right. That was Kobashi.
Right. So, yeah, it was like a move that was like, well, fuck, my shit ain't working. I gotta kill this guy. And now it's just like a setup for somebody else's finisher. So that's just where we've gone in wrestling. But anyway, Scott D'Amore comes out and he talks about all the contracts that he's handed out, Mike Bailey being one of them, other stuff. Basically, he puts himself over like Oprah, and then he's like, here's one more. He gives Trent Seven. He's got a contract for Trent Seven, and he's got a mustache towel with TNA on it for Trent Seven. And it's we signed the contract. Yeah, so we signed the contract for Trent Seven. My only question here, because I'm, all this stuff, I'm just like, who cares, right? But that's just me. There could be people out there that this is a cool moment. They like Trent Seven for whatever reason. And they, this is a cool, like, they like this kind of stuff. The whole on the spot signing gimmick or whatever. Like, okay, fine. It's just not for me, but I'm not the only person watching it, though it feels like it sometimes. So it feels like we're the only two people watching it. But all that aside, now let's rewind. If the Rascals didn't come out and beat up ABC, would this match have even happened? And if it didn't happen, would Trent Seven have just been there with his gear in his bag waiting for an opportunity? And if that's the case, if no one came up with a on-the-spot tag team match for this guy to be in as a mystery partner, would Scott D'Amore have just been like, well, you waited around all night and nothing came up for you. We didn't have anything, but here, you could sign this contract, and we made a towel for you. Like, was that... You see how, like, if you had sort of built to this match and advertised it as Mike Bailey and a mystery partner, then you could have been like, okay, now this makes sense, but you're making it sound like you made this match on the fly, but you already had merch for the guy. You had your contract printed up. You put him in the match. What was his match going to be if it wasn't this? And when were you going to sign him to a contract in public?
Yeah, it goes back to like the build up to these shows and the shows they've been having. Like, you could have easily built to this and done something where like Mike Bailey has a mystery partner, and then you're signing Trent Seven, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, Trent Seven's his partner. Like just something, man. And they did
Something.
nothing.
Speaking of nothing, here's a Machine Guns promo again. Okay, and now we get Jake Something versus Jason Hotch. We're not sure at first if we're going to get Jake Something, so I kind of spoiled that. But Hotch is doing his promo on the way down to the ring, and then he, blah 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 blah. Who cares? And then something comes out. He's putting his hand on his back, so his back's hurt. Like he could just like walk. He could struggle to walk and just look like he's grimacing by grimacing, but he has to put his little the hand on his back just so everybody knows, like it's that whole thing. So that's the level we're at. And then he gets jumped, and then the first thing he does when he takes back over, which is almost immediately, is he starts running shoulder tackles. So this guy attacked me in the back, and I'm just gonna wrestle at him. I don't care. I'm wrestling him. Wrestle, tackle. We're tackling. Even with the chair shots earlier, Hotch got way too much offense in. Like it almost felt like he was trying to work a 50-50 or a same size. Just wasn't going to happen. Nobody bought it. You know what the finish is. You know what it is. You didn't have to watch this show to know what the finish is. Jake Something goes over.
Right. So why not make a showcase for Jake to get his shit in and look good on an enhancement talent?
Because they suck. Here's the way you do it. Okay. Here's how you get. I said I would tell you how to get to where you wanted to go without doing any of the other stupid shit that you did. Because I really don't know how many people are watching the pre-show and then deciding if they want to continue watching. I'm pretty sure if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound at this point. So what I would have done is I would have just had this match go on like normal, right? And I would have had something go in there and start trashing Jason Hotch, and then do something like this. Pick him up for a gorilla press. Okay, so now he's got him up. He hoists him up for the gorilla press and presses him. Ow, my back. I tweak my back beating the shit out of this useless guy. Okay? Now your back's hurt. Now you sell the back. Now Jason Hotch gets a couple of minutes of offense on your hurt back, right? What is the difference? The difference is you don't look stupid for rewarding this guy for ruining your show. They could have even that they didn't get the max value out of it, because if you wanted to say this match was in jeopardy of not going on, that could be a good reason to have like a standby match with Trent Seven. Like, we didn't expect this, that kind of a thing. Like, we lost one match, but we gained another match. Like, they didn't even tell that story, not even going that far. Just, hey, I'm just going to hit you and then you're going to come out later and we're just going to do it like that. No, none of that. So that's your simple. Sometimes you overthink things. Very simple. Jake Something goes out, dominates, hurts himself. Jason Hotch tries to take advantage. Not good enough. Even a hurt Jake Something is better than a healthy Jason Hotch, and he beats him. 5 minutes. 7 tops. I mean, what's wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that?
Other than it went too long and it was not on Impact? Nah.
All right, I'm done with my, schooling for the day. All right. We get a package, then we get Moose versus Rhino. And then I'm like, okay, I think I know what to expect here. I can finally pay attention and watch this. I know what it's going to be. Even in this small venue, here they are. Like, in this little room, just a couple hundred people, whatever. Even in this place, the entrance makes Moose look like a god. The lighting, everything. The way they shoot it, They put way more effort into Moose's entrance than booking this show, and I'm fine with that. I don't see why you can't do both, but I'm just saying I'm fine with it. Uh, but then they start the match, and after Rhino phonily runs Moose's head into the apron 10 times, um, Moose punches him in the balls and just gets disqualified and starts to leave. And then, a bunch of stuff happens. Rhino wants a street fight. Moose is like, no. Then the announcer says, I've just been informed. Yeah, this whole thing, right? So we're not doing any more entrances. We're not having any more Santino appearances, even though he's like probably 20 yards from the entrance that he could just come out and say this stuff himself. But he has I've just been informed that Moose, this will be started as a street fight. Moose is like, I still don't care. It's like, I've just been informed that Moose will lose his briefcase. So now he has to be in a street fight. So now they have to have a street fight. And they have a street fight.
And he's still dominated.
Still dominated. It's just, they could have just had a regular match, but I feel like they always have Moose doing stuff like this. Hopefully, he's not the one that wants to do this. If he is, Moose, please stop doing stuff like this. Just have matches. It's okay. You can have a match with Rhino. You don't have to make it a street fight. Anyway, double ref bumps. And then the original ref comes to just in time to count the 1, 2, 3 from Moose after a spear. So at least Moose went over again, but a little bit of gaga to get there. Sigh. Any thoughts on this?
No, I thought it was a decent showcase for Moose to show what he can do. I thought it took a little bit longer than it should have.
Yeah.
Again, this is something that should have been saved for their main TV show instead of a pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Moose on TV, Moose on pay-per-view. Just why not both? We get a Frankie Kazarian promo about him being there at the birth of TNA and him being here at the rebirth of TNA, and 2024 is the year of Frankie Kazarian. 2024 is the year of, well, hopefully not appearing on pre-shows anymore. All right. Deonna Purrazzo and Giselle Shaw versus Trinity and Jordan Grace. Can they coexist? Yeah, whatever on this. The Trinity hits her finish and Jordan Grace rolls into it because she's the legal person and she ends up pinning Deonna. And then post-match, Deonna and Giselle have a disagreement and then they shake hands and then Giselle turns because she's evil.
I don't get it. I really don't get why they can insist on Giselle Shaw being heel. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
It's more fun to be heel. She probably just wants to.
I mean, and I get that, but like from what I have seen, like the whole mean girl being a bitch thing, like that just seems so forced. Like that seems like Giselle's trying way too hard. Like that whole part of it has always been felt like it was forced to me. Like everything else about the presentation and the character, like that feels natural, that feels organic, but just being like an absolute bitchy cunt, that whole thing always felt forced to me.
Really? Well, I don't think it felt forced, but I just thought she was doing a good job at it. Well, I don't know. But whatever it is, like, as somebody that's dating the boss, I'm sure she's getting to do exactly what she wants to do. So,
like, Giselle's always struck me as somebody who's a genuinely kind, decent-hearted, great person deep down. That's why the whole, like, mean girl, bitchy, like, conceited, arrogant cunt thing never really works for me. That seems like a put on and a character to me. That's just me.
Well, yeah, I have to agree to disagree because most people that are like that tend to want to be baby faces. And while you think that's a better fit, I'm just saying the people with the people with the genuinely good hearts like to be heels, because not only do they get to do a little something different, but they get to put people over, which is altruistic in its own right, like wanting to help elevate others and things like that. So, I mean,
And that
I
makes
think I'm
sense.
a pretty good person and I gotta be a heel. I can't be a baby face. If I'm a baby face, if you guys like me, it's because I can be a heel. That's deep down in my heart, like I wish all these people the best. I gotta bury them though, because it's my job.
Yeah, I think it was Bret Hart who said it in his book that the best heels are baby faces in real life.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Retro Rocker Review says, I have searched but still do not know who was the mini Housen next to Danhausen on AEW Collision. Was it his stepdaughter? This question right here is Canada Spaceman in a nutshell. Like, if you don't get the concept of Canada Spaceman, this basically explains everything. This is all you need to know. This question is all you need to know. All right. Moose is with Gia and no music underneath. He says, everything that you've known him up till now, 5-star athlete, Mr. Impact, wrestling god, put all those to bed. The only thing you need to know him as is Moose, the TNA world champion. So he's calling his shot.
And again, that just kind of tells me like it's kind of signaling that Moose is going over at Hard to Kill, because like, again, if you're doing a changeover, you have to have a new champion. Like, that just kind of goes without saying.
Yes, and it needs to be Moose. You can be anything, you can do anything you want. You start fresh however you want, but it has to be Moose. All right, Josh and Zach, which sounds like some sort of a Disney Channel sitcom from the 2000s. It's on right after Lizzie McGuire. Josh and Zach versus the Motor City Machine Guns in the last Impact match ever. But remember, we still have a month of TV. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, what do you have to say about this match?
It was a match. I mean, it basically just both teams of people getting their shit in, and then somebody goes over.
That somebody is Josh Alexander. He hits the C4 on the strongest man in Impact history. You can guess who that is. After a match that,
and by C4 spike, you mean just a little poke in the chest?
I wish. Yeah, I don't feel like complaining about all the things wrong with this match. I don't. I could, I just don't. And you might think that means it's because I didn't watch it. No, I watched this one. I just got exhausted watching it. I'll give you here's the proof that I watched it. Okay. Go back and watch the spot where they're about to do a double suplex or something, to double superplex on Chris Sabin. And while he's sitting on the top turnbuckle, he just reaches down and adjusts his elbow pad while he's waiting to get suplexed. Like, that's the level we're at. Strongest man in Impact history. We'll see if he remains Goldberg 98 in the year 2024 in TNA, but I'll be damned if he's not the strongest man in Impact history. So, Alexander wins. The guest star is not embarrassed. He didn't just come in to take the pin. And once again, as they celebrate, Zach pats him on the stomach to signify like, hey, we need to get you a belt. So there you go, looking for gold. And Josh Alexander, shit, well, he's got a pinfall over Chris Sabin, so might as well get that X Division title off of him in the meantime, because we know where the big belt's going, baby. And then they end the show with a logo. It's like Impact 20 years or or is it 6? I don't know. What's 6, 7, or 20? We're gonna count all the TNA years too for Impact 20, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. You know, we're getting our changeover in 4 weeks. So God knows what we're gonna have. Again, we're gonna have New Year's, Christmas. That's 2 weeks. But what are we gonna do for the other two? More highlights. More tapings from the Don Koloff Arena, perhaps. But then that would make this not the last Impact match ever. So are we going to get an early TNA rebranding? Like, can they avoid holding it off until the pay-per-view? I don't know. Did they order all the new like turnbuckle covers and ring aprons and it all just arrived early? Amazon Prime free same day delivery. They got it faster than they thought they would. Like, oh, we can do a little TNA ahead of time, or how is it going to go? We're just going to have to tune in to find out, I guess.
Tune in next week.
We're out of time. Good night. Well, we are just about out of time here on the Impact Attack. We thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts on Final Resolution, Brandon?
Oh man, just another house show and a series of house shows because they don't know what to do until they actually relaunch into TNA.
The announcement was a mistake.
The announcement was a mistake. Like, again, why would you announce that until you're ready to actually make the switch and start building from there? We've said it here, like when they first did that.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm tired of repeating myself, so I can only imagine how they feel. Yeah, so there you go. We'll just have to tune in and see what they have in store for us. I guess this week's episode, it's too early for Christmas break, so I'm interested to see what they've got, but let's all look forward to it together. Let's look forward to next Monday together where we sort through it. But yeah, so until next Monday, Brandon, where can the people find you?
You can find me as usual on Twitter, or as the kids call it this day, the X, at TransArchisTia. I am also on twitch.tv at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist, and I am also on Substack at HMG Brandon. And of course, you can find me every Monday right here on the Impact Attack. Whoop whoop.
That's right. For you audio onlys at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, if you want to join us live and get the chat rocking and rolling. So as for me, you can find me at Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms. You can find me every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, in which I will be covering and we will be covering NXT Deadline, as well as the current episode, the Fallout episode of NXT. They're not taking no holidays off. They don't put together holiday packages, bro. You're getting, New Year's Evil and all kinds of crazy shit. So we're going to have that to look forward to, or not look forward to, as the case may be. But it'll be a good time nonetheless. Of course, you can catch me every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for The Wreckage, where PWC boys Jimmy T and Chris Ames and I go over everything that happened on AEW Collision. Spoiler, not much. But what is there is bad. They're in the middle of a round robin tournament, so there's something to cover of significant ongoing storylines, but other than that, not really. Then you've got what else do we got? We got Wrestling with Rip Rogers, right? So I told you guys about the Mark Henry interview, so I hope you guys all went and checked that out. Just amazing free content. And now to top that off, what's the hottest wrestler that everybody's talking about right now? CM Punk, right? I mean, is there anybody talking about another wrestler more than him? No. So he's not on Wrestling with Rip Rogers, but you know who is? Ace Steel. So Ace Steel's on there, and he's talking about CM Punk. He's talking a little bit. He can't say everything, but he's talking a little bit about some incidents that may or may not have happened. And he's talking about himself in his career and everything he's been doing, has done, will do in wrestling today. So it's very topical. It's very entertaining. Ace is one of the old school guys. You listen to Ace, and it's kind of like, yep, I definitely know which side of this I'm standing on. But you know, that's again absolutely free. You can just go listen to it right now. Nothing's in your way. No subscriptions. No paywall. No nothing. Just go listen to 2 hours of Ace Steel talking to Rip Rogers and Von Lilas, just as they do every Friday, at their concrete time of whatever time that is. And he's got some stuff coming up. I think he's got 2 interviews coming up, you know, for Wrestling with Rip Rogers that you're going to want to check out, but they'll tell you about that on that channel. So like and subscribe and comment, and boom, check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers. And then of course, Stevie Richards' wrestling analysis. He's talking about, speaking of CM Punk, how he would book CM Punk going into WrestleMania 40. So, you know, CM Punk is all anybody wants to talk about these days. We talked about him here on this show. Ace Steel's talking about him because he trained him. And, you know, Stevie Richards talking about him because it's hot news, you know. And, you know, if he wants to he gets views on that channel, and then he'll put out something about, you know, resistance band workouts, and his CM Punk video will get 1,000 times more views than the other one. But that's fine. That's just how it is. Wrestling fans want to see what wrestlers have to say about wrestling. That's what we do. So hopefully you will continue to join us for that same thing. But until next time, for Brandon, I'm the Vet, and I don't have a sign.